Hi everyone, welcome to this week's review. I'm Alberian Sevenon. Okay, so just right off, I look at this game briefly, and there are many interesting things in the opening, especially I'll say shape issues. That's something I'll highlight in this game. So this is a common Joseki. Typically, we'll play something like this. Notice that the cover F5 is more common nowadays than the connection because the AI evaluation for this move is much higher. The idea is that the clam aji turns out to be more severe than we initially thought. In the game, black made the first mistake, Hane here, and then white Hane. This move is correct to punish black Joseki choice error. I'm not sure if it's common knowledge about how to deal with this, so I'll briefly talk about it. So Hane connect, usually this is the correct move. In the game, white made a mistake, and then black connect here, and then white can play this nice clamp. So notice, if white just goes to the second line, then black has a decent seal on the outside. So white can do a little better. This clamp is a nice move right now. If black just connects, white can connect as well. And notice this is similar to the old Joseki, but black made a bad exchange by pushing here. So this will be pretty unacceptable for black. Yeah, and this is the successful way to punish black. I think white is more worried about this move, pushing down, but the cut after 5 typically favors white. So basically turn here will be sente, otherwise there's a miai here going on. White can play here, and notice these zones will, yeah, the white can fight out like this. And it will be pretty hard for black to gain advantage here because black is very heavy and white can push out. Black has 3 groups to worry about. And if black reinforces here, then white can hunt it down. So this will be a good thing to know. Traditionally, some people, there are some old Joseki book that says this move is best because when black blocks, white can cut. But actually, black at this point can play this move, and this overall result is not bad for black. So descending at R18 is not the best way to punish black. Okay, so here white deviated and black still extended, but I think right now it's important to keep in mind the exchanges. So white played Q18 first, so that gives black an option to capture this move and then to create a trade like this. I think playing this way is better than the game for black, because capturing that one zone gains a lot of points in the corner, and it makes black's whole shape a lot thicker. So this is one situation where if your opponent changes the order, you should definitely reevaluate what you need to do. And especially white push a second time, so it makes this capture potentially even more compelling. So black will get sente here. So actually, in this case, even though black still has sente, but because there's still a cut at A, maybe black is better off just having this shape instead. So the learning point here is that your opponent makes one bad exchange and then continues on to the normal sequence. You can continue to play the normal sequence, pretending like the exchange never happened, but this is also another chance to punish your opponent for switching up the order, and maybe you can get a bigger advantage that way. So this is something to evaluate for sure. Okay, so this is a normal, just typical opening. The top right overall is still about even. There's nothing major. Okay, so white invaded. I think this move is a slight overplay because black already has a strong wall here. So this move is not very necessary right now. Yeah, as I like to mention, in this type of territory, the least you have to worry about is the third line territory. We really only want to reduce it, the center influence, not worry about the third and maybe even fourth line territory. So white can just play normally, or if you really want to reduce black, I think attaching here is the way to go. You can either cut or just maybe extend. Actually, just extend in this case. So it's pretty easy for white to control the upper side. So if black want to continue to expand, then white can get quite a bit on the left as well. So notice, if you play this type of game, it'll be pretty hard for black to win, because white essentially has an extra corner. And white can also invade along this line. Yeah, so here black chooses to attach, but I think this goes against the common strat principle. You only attach typically when you're the weaker side, because then you'll be helping your opponent fix their shape and gain more stones. So I think the proper way for black to play would just be the cap. And it'll be pretty hard for white to settle here. Black can continue to attack very severely, whether it's through the peep or maybe just to cap. Black will get a strong wall. And notice all white really destroyed is here, which is about 15, maybe at most 20 points. But black will get a wall in Sente, which white can get a lot more than 20 points in the center. And if black has a strong outside influence, then black can press white's corner like here, and then maybe even B. So that's why you don't want to just be sealed off on the side with only a couple points too early in the game. Okay, so the double Hane, this is the same directional mistake as the attachment, because black is stronger, so there's no reason to play moves like the double Hane. So now once white push, black's kind of in a dilemma here, because the F17 zone being cut off, and black doesn't have a strong response to that. So maybe black can think about the wedge, but white can Atari and connect. It seems like this will be a difficult fight for black as well. Yeah, connecting here and here will be Miai. So black chose to go cut in the game. It chose the sacrifice strategy. But we can see that, first of all, black should block and just make the exchange. This will maximize the points here. And we can see that white has a very fat corner. This is basically already 15, 20, 25 points. And all of this is only 25 points. Maybe not even. So in Sente, essentially white already destroyed everything black has in the top. So the game is now very good for white. So I think in hindsight, capturing here is probably a little slow. Knowing that block is Sente, black can play these moves. And later, if black somehow expands the middle, it's probably unlikely for white to escape this stone, because black can push and then just connect underneath. It'll be very hard for white to find two eyes in this area. And black doesn't have too many weaknesses. The only thing potentially is this clamp, but that's the only move. And with only the clamp, white can't do much. So perhaps black is not aware that he's already behind. So peep, I think this is an overplay. If we really evaluate the position, we'll see that white is way ahead in territory. So there's no reason to invade so deeply. And in this type of game, it's especially fatal when you invade deeply, because if you're ahead in territory, that typically means your opponent is very over-concentrated. So when you go even deeper, too deep in this case, it would be very easy for everything to die because your opponent is over-concentrated, which makes you have a territory lead to begin with. But that's a double-edged sword when you're trying to live later in the game. So yeah, and then black decide to capture this stone, which also doesn't make sense, because black is very strong here. The idea, the goal has to be to go for the whole thing. If white clamps, black can Hane on the first line. So even though the shape here might look a little ugly, black can connect back. So that's not a big deal. Yeah, black's goal here needs to basically let the P15 stone die in Gote, just to make another expansion move and then kind of ignore the peep. There in no situation will black try to play passive moves like this or connect. And here, the cut is the same thing. Once black played the cut and white got Atari, white basically got a few stones on Sente on the outside. So these stones are a little lighter, and white can potentially just cut his losses and play something else. For example, yeah, there's nothing wrong with just playing a light reduction right here. So as long as black can't get more than, let's say, 40 points in the center, white will be very comfortable in the game. If black play moves like this, then white can easily just reduce. Or maybe even the shoulder hit. So the idea is white needs to play lightly, and of course, on the other hand, black needs to make sure to capture the whole group. Yeah, so I think white definitely play too heavy. And I think this is the most bizarre turn in the game is this series of exchange where white Atari on this side. Yeah, I'm not sure if both players really play at a single digit Q level. And then play this move, which these are very obvious Atari. But of course, if black Atari now, white can make 2 Atari. Maybe that's the trap to bait black to capture. And now white will have a better shape. So black Hane, but in reality, just extend will be proper. I guess as you gain more experience as the viewers or the players, you'll see that this type of Hane is bad shape because you leave a cutting point here and then this immediately goes into a ladder. So even if the ladder works for black, white will have a ton of forcing moves and potential ladder breakers. So let's say even if black can play here and the ladder works, white will have a lot of forcing moves. And that ultimately makes capturing the 4th zone not even worth it. And in this case, it's even worse because the ladder works for white. So what black has to play here, and white can actually just net. So extending is the only move. And here, black played the turn, which is quite unbelievable, I would say. Maybe black at this point figured there are 2 ladder, and black cannot win both of them. So if black plays here, white can in fact ladder this, and this also this ladder. But right now, there's a really nice move to solve both ladders, which is this Hane. So now both ladders work for black again. White might be able to play here, and then black can just extend. This is quite painful to give white a Panuki, and I think in this case, the result will probably be sort of even in the top. Black gained some point, but after this Panuki, most of the center potential will be lost. So this Hane is a good move to remember in this shape. And backtracking a little bit, I would say the Atari and push here is pretty natural follow-up for white. So if black didn't have a plan to handle this, I would say this Hane was ill conceived, right? Sometimes we cannot play perfect moves like the AI to read, but we can at least within our framework of understanding try to predict our opponent's response to our moves. If the most basic instinct tells you that you don't know how to respond, then it doesn't matter how good the plan theoretically is. It's not a good plan for you at the moment. So I think this Hane fall into that bucket of mistakes. Yeah, and now all of a sudden white continues to expand the margin of lead because black lost 3 zone in the center. Yeah, connecting here, yeah, it's also really puzzling. Here, this move is only worth 2 points. Maybe white think this is Sente 2 point because it forces black to respond to a cutting point, but even making this exchange, we can easily see that the Q9 zone is worth a lot more than just saving 1 zone at P12. So I think, yeah, both players really need to look more globally and have a more consistent train of thought. Yeah, I hope black will figure out that white is doing really well. So it will be a good time to think of some sort of ladder breaker around here. This will create more chances for black to complicate the game. And at this point, right, yeah, attaching here will be a decent ladder breaker. White will have to fix, and then black can potentially cut off that g4 stone. Here, black tried to fight in this area, but white doesn't really have to do much. I think white can either connect back, just fall back, or the more aggressive move is to bump and cut, which is the game. But the problem for white is this move. I think both players didn't know the common shape response in this type of situation. If white plans to cut at d10, then white needs to see the b13 response. So I think black can still live in the corner, but the outside will be more favorable to white. For example, something like this. And then the corner is safe because c17 and b12 will be miai. I think this result is not super worth it for white because white end up with gote and black is alive on the side. So white's 25 corner is now half gone. And also, of course, black out sente. So potentially, I think white can just play fullback. Yeah, of course, the game result is even worse because black get to completely separate white, and white end up with this really bad shape. Of course, here, white needs to capture. This cleanly panuki is a lot better than extending because for points, later when black descend, right, we can see giving the a13 Atari. It's a big deal. And then black also has this Atari sente. And then black missed a double Atari here. So I think black definitely needs to work on reading, while white should focus on being more familiar with common shape responses. But in terms of the game, white is leading pretty much the whole way. And at the end, it wasn't that close. Let's see. Right, it's a 66.5 point game. Yeah, so I'll focus on the beginning for this game because there were a lot of major reading errors and directional mistakes. If people have questions, I'm happy to come back later. Okay. Okay, so the white player Jaden is the player I met at our local Chicago Open event in Chicago Rapid. So we'll see. Okay, how he's doing. So I think this move is the first major issue. Locally, if white wants to play, pushing up, it's pretty much the only move. If white wants to spend a move here locally, pushing up is the only move. This move set up two potentially decent follow-up. One is white can threaten the corner and white playing the hane. So this move pretty much guarantees that black cannot really have a moe on the right. And then on the other hand, white can expand to the top. With the help of O16, the upper territory can be a little more efficient. And compare that with if white tenuki and white black plays here, then immediately M17 will seal white down to the second line. And if white responds, then black can have fourth and fifth line moyo on the right. So that's one thing for the first mistake. Black is happy to make these pushes. And notice the synergy in the bottom. In the bottom right, locally, this will be even. But notice there's an extension zone at 8. And we know that this type of synergy is not great for white because black can push again. And eventually, the J4 zone will not be placed really well. Black doesn't have to make these exchanges specifically. But let's say if black attaches once. And there could be, and it might be difficult for white to connect. Or even if black doesn't do anything, if black, let's say, fall back and white want to push up, the J4 stone will always be a little too close to the bottom right. So that's something to think about. So other ways to play this corner, one will be to Kosumi here. This is a way to take sente. this will be the typical follow-up, and maybe white can play here. In this case, it still has a problem of the N3 stone doesn't synergize well with J4. So potentially white can think about something else. Another option is white can push several times and then tenuki. Let's say here. But I think the easiest solution is for white to take the corner first, to reinforce here. So as soon as white has p4, now j4 looks really good because white can use that to expand. And now everything synergizes very well. Every move is very valuable. So at this point, the game is still super early, but I think black is comfortable. Okay, so black takes the empty corner, nothing wrong with that. I think maybe if black wants to play more proactively, connecting the side will be better, just because black has a pretty strong upper right and then a semi-wall in the bottom right. So if black can takes the center, then this whole territory will be pretty annoying for white to deal with. In the upper left, neither side will get a decent moyo, so maybe the focus will eventually be on the right side. Yeah, nothing major with, but c15 is still a fine move. So white peeped here. I think this is somewhat risky at this point. Usually white only plays here with more stones on the right, and then white will peep. I haven't seen peeping directly yet. Black can potentially think about a counterattack, for example, pushing. This can maybe help black deal with this incentive. But in the game, black chose, I guess, a safer way playing here. And white didn't respond in the corner, which I think is why white fell really behind in the opening. Right, so black should have pushed once and then occupied the vital 3-3 point. Now we can see that the corner shape, black is super strong. Black is alive. White lost a lot of points in the corner. And on the right side, now p6, this stone is not placed in a very good position. It's just too close to black's wall, and white is definitely owing a move on the side. Another option for black is actually to cut, or maybe to cut here, because black can just take the whole corner. Maybe black doesn't want to take the corner at this point because white can peep here and still reduce the corner. But in any case, we can see white shape here is very broken, and black didn't lose anything because the right side wasn't black's territory to begin with. So we have to compare what white potentially gained with r7 versus what white lost in the corner. And then if black cut on this side, then black can choose to ladder this stone. This might be more complicated just because white can have a ladder breaker and white's alive in the corner, so it's a little bit harder to judge. The safest way is definitely to just Hane a 3-3. And quick thing, for maybe single digit or double digit Q players, how to deal with this type of cut. You always capture the side your opponent cut at. If your opponent cut here, capture here. If your opponent cut here, you should capture that stone. Unless there's something major, like if the other side is like a 30-40 point group and this side is only worth 10 points, then it will be different. But in this case where it's like laddering a stone on the outside versus capturing a stone in the corner, you should just capture whichever side your opponent cut. Never connect the other side. This is very different because without that Panuki stone, your shape is a lot weaker. And that matters a lot. So black made a small mistake here by not pushing first. The reason I think is easy to see, right? If white still spends the move here and black has to take gote in the corner, then making the push exchange will ensure that eventually black still has a decent endgame at p2. That's a pretty nice follow-up. But if black didn't make the one exchange with the block, as in the game, there's no decent follow-up anymore. Okay, so white made an extension. Is a reasonable move to settle the right, and black extended to the top. The biggest move here will definitely be bottom left at this point. In the top, white made m16, which is not the most aggressive move. Of course, that would be o16. So even if white spends another move to expand to the top, you can see that white doesn't really have much. Even if, let's say, white hane and black just, let's give everything to white. So let's say the most conservative approach. Even something like this, white is not gaining that much relative to black. This is at best even. And in fact, black can do a lot better. And in fact, it will be closer to this. And again, this will be about 20 points. And on the left, you can already see it's a lot more. And notice black Tenuki wants to and gain the corner, right? If later black can just even play the jump, let alone the invasion in the bottom, there will be no territory for white in this area. So getting the stone at C2 it's worth well more than 20 points, considering the corner territory, the local lower side territory, and the thickness implications. So this is a directional mistake. And black attached here. I think white has to play here. I think black could have blocked. Maybe white was thinking of either cut or hane connect. But in this case, it's a good way for black to just stop and fall back, to not engage further. Locally, this is probably a reasonable exchange for black because white still doesn't have much in the upper side, and black gets a few moves and strengthen the outside. So this will be fine for black. Yeah, this result is similar. Both sides effectively just traded. Okay, so this is a reading issue here from black. Black can in fact extend out. White needs to fix this cut, and black can turn. Oops. Even if white cut this fight, what black can play here. White is down one liberty, no matter what. So if we go back here, white's best move is to turn, and black will probably connect, and white can extend again. In this case, white's liberty and Aji will be a lot better, and black wouldn't have much potential towards the center. And this will take advantage of the fact that K17 basically died in white's territory. In the game sequence, if black can cut here, black basically didn't suffer a loss from K17 because white also lost a move here by giving black a K15 Atari. So this is something very important to keep in mind. Sometimes you capture your opponent's stone and it just dies in your territory. That's a big efficiency gain. But if they're able to get a lot of Aji out of it, you have to spend another move to capture it, then you're effectively not really capturing your opponent's stone because your opponent's getting value on the outside. And this peep is just a directional mistake. Right, there's a cut here and there's no time to peep. Even if there's a stone, this is safe, what black can cut, peeping at this direction is just not a valuable part of the board because it's a bad exchange, first of all. And most of black's potential will be along this line. So I think white needs to aim to shoulder hit. Some Q players will play moves like this. It looks like an invasion, but in fact, it doesn't have any connection with thickness. And that's very dangerous in the opening. When your moves neither gives you a lot of territory nor focus on exploiting your opponent's weakness or strengthening your own weaknesses. This is basically another move played right next to black's wall. So if black just played normal moves to attack white, this group would be a big liability. And now in the bottom left, maybe instead of targeting from this side, black will target here and start a more complicated fight. If white plays here, and maybe black can even try to do some sort of double attack. Yeah, at this point, white will be under quite a bit of pressure. So black responded. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because black is so strong locally, and it's just unclear what kind of follow up white can have in this area, right? If white plays Kasumi, black can just block. If white attaches, black can honestly block from either side. But in the worst case scenario, black can fall back, and I don't see anything for white. So this is a typical classic case of when your opponent plays overplay, you have to punish it. This is how you can continue to develop your advantage and punish your opponent when they make a mistake. This is a time where black has to be decisive and not back off. This move actually makes white's earlier exchange pretty okay because then white didn't lose a move locally. White just peeped once, essentially. Before the F15 move could be very devastating. So if this whole group become a big liability, white can this can snowball and white can just lose the game from here. But now black spent another move here. This is effectively a wasted move at this stage in the game. And then white played another move. I think it's best at this point for white to take a big point. And looking at the global situation, there's the extension on the right. There's something in the bottom left, and then of course we want to come back to the center. There's still a little bit of weakness, or at least we don't want black to capture these two zones in this scale. So white needs to do a light reduction, but depending on the situation, white can sacrifice these two zones. I think that's a big picture. So ideally, I would recommend white to maybe make an exchange on the right, just to profit a little bit in the side. And then the bottom left, typically white extends. This is a nice gote move, but it's a big point. Right now, white can potentially think about taking sente, taking advantage of the fact that black made an earlier kind of slow move by extending here. So black's shape on the left is low, which means maybe white can play a double hane. So this allows white to take profit in the corner. And notice black's move at C11 is a little bit too low, so black's efficiency is not very high. And after taking profit in the corner, in sente, white can fix the center by playing 13. So now in one basically turn, white strengthened the bottom, got a little bit on the right, and still have time to come back to the center. So the flow of the game will just slowly tilt back to white. And this will still be a long game. This move again is directly next to black's wall, and it's still sees initiative to black. Black doesn't need to think about anything too crazy to cut white. In this type of shape, if black just continue to play normally, white will need to spend a lot of moves to fix the connection issues. So naturally, black can kind of get another one outside, and the fight in the bottom left will be more precarious for white. Okay, so black played this move in the corner. I think it's a little bit too conservative. At this stage of the game, at this point, because C11 is already there, black shouldn't think about tarring from this side and do a fighting variation. At the very least, after Atari, there's no reason to play B8. Descending down will give black more points. So I think this is an incorrect application of a Joseki. So I think this is the first area where white really gained. White played a nice move of the Keima. It reduces the left side and still strengthens the bottom. So at this point, white, it's doing a little bit better. And here, black tried to invade, but this is not a super scary outcome for white. I think jumping is risky. White can actually just wedge and cut. So black probably had to extend, which will give time for white to escape. And it's unclear if the invasion will be really worth it for black. But it will be a fine fight from here. Yeah, and then f5 will continue. But just jumping directly leaves a very obvious weakness for white. So black should be very careful. Yeah, so in the game, white die in the center. So I'll see what exactly happened. I think peep is somewhat of a overplay because at this point, white needs to strengthen the right side instead of really attacking black. And peeping doesn't really give white much. Okay, so cutting could be one of the first, another major mistake. Because this is effectively a pass at this point. White still has a lot of weaknesses here and here. And having J6, that's just worth a couple points. Right now, even if black tries to kill these two stones, it doesn't matter for white because that's only worth a few points. So cutting here at this point is just running away from the most important part of the board. Yeah, black also play very conservatively here. There's no reason to play moves like this. Black can just jump directly. And notice there's a peep. This is very annoying for white. If white has a wedge here to make the connection, then having the K3 stone already gave black a few points toward the bottom. And black can play here to continue to put pressure on white. If white doesn't respond, then black can continue. There's still a little bit of connection issue here. Or maybe black can push here or even attach. So the whole white group is very heavy. White played this move. Typically the shock move is one move back. So this will be a better shape. Because if you play here, black actually can block. So white doesn't have a good follow-up after this. Now black gained a lot of stone in the center. Maybe black can think about pushing ones and then just cut off the 3 stones. This looks somewhat pretty risky for white. I think black actually gained because capturing this stone for black in the center, it doesn't do much. And Atari here could be a little greedy because white spent a lot of moves connecting, and in fact it's still not connected, which was became the problem. Yeah, I think at this point the game is over because white gave all the game in the center and didn't get anything. The upper side is still a hot mess. So right now, if white can live in the bottom, so for example, just honestly even playing the eye, it's very hard for black to really kill this group because of this eye. White has an eye in the bottom, and it's not too hard to make another eye in the center. So if black cut white, then white can make the second eye. Or actually, this is already alive. So white can have a Sente eye here. Or if white connects, let's see. If white just connects here, there's no way for black to cut this group in Sente, and white can just live. Perhaps it's time pressure, or maybe white just played too quickly. This is definitely a spot in the game where it's like a do or die and life and death situation. So white has to be very careful here. In the game, white try to fight, play tough in the center, but eventually had to back down. So that made the whole process, the whole situation not worth it. Yeah, which caused white to lose the game. Yeah, with that, I'll move on to the last game. Just checking. Okay, no question yet. In this game's taking a quick look, it looks like it was decided because the bottom left white group died. Oh, so interesting double 3-3 opening. Yeah, so the direction of play is fine, but there are definitely obvious weaknesses in the corner. For example, black can push and attach here. This can help black create a good shape. And it's actually pretty annoying. If black cut here, white Atari, black can extend here in Sente and then block. This gives this first line and then the Kosumi Sente. So keep in mind of the order of move. Black can cut here. If white Atari, then the outside fight would be a lot better, more favorable for black. Black can come back to here. This is a good exchange. If white just typically white will play here and then black can block, and white has to spend another move. This will be just a good exchange for black to play, and now black can connect here anytime. So it would be pretty worthwhile for white to spend a move to fix the corner issue. For this game, I'll focus attention to the fight in the bottom left. The summary for the top is white play a few moves, but that's too inefficient. They're all on the third line, very flat. That's not a good strategy. Okay, white played the wedge. Yeah, so that's a big blunder. White just keep trying to cut black, but none of this really work. Okay, so this is maybe it's because it's a 4K versus a 10Q that caused this type of behavior. It just feels like white didn't read much in this situation. I assume if they're both playing in the same league, then the strength difference shouldn't be so stark. But it does look like white made two relatively easy mistakes. Of course, this cut and then extending here, just allowing black to capture so easily. Right now, of course, if black Atari here, the game is still pretty okay. White have suffered a loss, but this is not devastating or game over yet. Yeah, black will probably extend, and then white can get this in Sente, and then later there are some forcing moves on the side as well. So black play here. Something to keep in mind is when we're trying to attack, we should focus on strengthening our weakest point. So right now, the center after the Panuki, black is pretty strong. So the focus should be strengthening, reinforcing the right side. So if black wants to attack this group, I'll recommend by starting with jumping here. If white still has to escape to the center, and then black can still naturally play moves in the center. And just before white wants to connect to the bottom, black can harass the bottom, maybe even do something like this. Then this will create a very coherent attack pattern. This move doesn't threaten white's connection, so white can just jump. And eventually this invasion will be a problem. So we can see that time and time again, white made some very simple reading errors by wasting another move here. And the shape at L9 is also bad. It's essentially an empty triangle. If you think about it, this is somewhat of an empty triangle. If you don't have to make this exchange, you can just attach. Usually you should just attach directly without making the Kosumi exchange. Yeah, and you don't want to make the exchange because it strengthens your opponent a lot. So now black has a pretty complete wall. Okay, so in the process of attacking, I'm skimming over the details here. Black got a wall in the center and then protected the right side. So this is a very bad result for white. White ended up playing a lot of dame. And notice the connection here is still not completely safe. It's probably okay for now, but even this Kema will be very painful for white. White has to play moves like this or bump and just connect. So black can profit a lot again in the bottom. Here, black went for the kill, but it could be a little risky because if white just lives in the center like this, black will lose a lot compared to whatever the value of a B8 is. If black determines that he's ahead, then potentially just extending will be good enough. Yeah, but it looks like black play reasonably well, and there's not a chance for white to find a second eye. Two details to point out is this move doesn't actually reduce white's eye at all. In fact, it takes away black's own liberty, and it could be a very terrible mistake. If black doesn't play it, black should just basically skip that exchange and come back to separating the bottom, maybe pushing here. This takes away black's own liberty because then when white turn, notice d8 is no longer liberty. So if black want to fix here, this will easily lead to liberty shortage, right? This is liberty shortage. And white can also maybe use this sente. And even against a corner, now white can make like a ko-eye here. So this is still not an eye, but it means that white can potentially use this to cause some liberty shortage or threaten the corner's life and death. Without that, this exchange, black can Atari here and sente anytime. So white can't really do anything in the bottom left. And the other thing is black blocked here. This is, of course, our gut instinct, the typical response. But right now, the whole focus is on killing this group. Black has invested a lot. So in reality, these three cells in the center does not matter at all. And blocking here leaves a cutting point at A, which may help the center group live. It's pretty hard to read out everything, but it's pretty easy to see having a cutting point here is not ideal. So I recommend black to just fall back. If white pushes again, just extend again. There's no reason for white to capture the center when the left life and death is so urgent. So this will give black the strongest shape possible in this area. Yeah, actually, I think at this point, white has a pretty good chance because blocking here threatens the connection, and then white can still threaten this cut. And then this peep will become sente, and then white can separate the entire bottom group. Maybe even jumping here. So black will be under a lot of pressure this way. Maybe this is how white can turn the game around. Yeah, in the game, both sides wasted some moves here, and then white couldn't find the second eye. Yeah, and then this group died like this. But white definitely has several chances. I think most notably right here, if white can skip this peep, and then just focus on the cutting. Because extending here will be sente, and white can hunt it down. Even here, if white cut right now, I think white will have a pretty good chance of living. Yeah, because there's no good way for black to deal with this move. And if white can turn, this is sente. If black fixes, white can live with two eyes in the center. If white blocks or takes away the eye, white can hane here. And there's no way for black to secure connection. Capturing race here favors white unless black wants to give up the J4 stone. So this will not work for black. And clamp also doesn't work. White is up 1 liberty. So white actually found several chances here. For example, this move is also not necessary. Even though white was off to a bad start and was falling quite behind, but because black went all in killing white's group and wasn't well prepared enough, that gave white a chance. But white wasn't able to seize the opportunity, and eventually, tragically, everything died. Yeah, I think for white, I can see a lot of it. It's still has some DDQ tendency. Maybe this move, this is another empty triangle. If we want to fix a cutting point, fix a wedge weakness, white can just counter peep. And now there's no cut here, white can push out. So there are a lot of weaknesses from black that white can exploit. But white maybe didn't see most of that. And that caused the demise of the whole dragon. Wonder if there are any questions about this game and any other game. I'm happy to go back. We're approaching close to time.
Thank you for the review. I think there's a life and death problems at the very end of that dragon fight.
Okay.
I don't know if
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Right here. So
where
white
my
made an
corner
eye.
almost died there.
Yeah. And then just going slowly. Yep. Atari. This move. Descend. Oh, so maybe there is still hope for white at this point.
Yeah, I think the AI has like a throw-in move into my corner that would make a dead shape for me or something.
Yeah, I think your problem was you didn't hunt it here.
Yeah.
That will help a lot. So in fact, if you just defend the corner, white still has a gold eye here, and then you can kill this eye, and then you wouldn't have any of that life and death situation. So the problem is right now white can take away this eye and then just turn. This is a fake eye. There's no eye there, and then if you block, white can peep. If you play here, white can just attach. The only way for you to live is through this ko, but white definitely has more ko threats. And white can even just peep directly, and this will lead to a big capturing race. Although if it end up in a capturing race, it might be okay for you because this is a big eye, which is worth 8 liberties, and white only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you're up 1 liberty. Very exciting. But white can just turn first, and this will force a ko. Yeah, so it's very hard to kill a group. You have to be careful. Make all the preparation and then be willing to commit until the very end. And now you see the peep exchange here really mattered. If you didn't make that exchange, your corner would have been fine. And the move at A didn't help your outside at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess before that, your black was doing pretty well. You control the game. You know real issues. Except maybe be aware of the aji you can pull off in the upper right. That'll be a very, very useful one to know. Yeah, and if you're not like a dragon killing type of player, maybe just extend. I'm pretty sure black has enough. Let's say white will settle here in Gote, and then you take the corner, the last corner. This will be a very safe way to win.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize I was that far ahead. So
yeah, I mean we can quickly look at this, right? You have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, maybe about 12 upper right, and then the bottom right, you have this type of Musente. So you have easily 15. And then the whole group, center group for white is barely 5 points.
Mhm.
And then the upper side, if you push at 018, 8, 10, 12, 16, it's honest, I'll say it's under 20. You have a little potential in the center too, like in this area. So if you cancel that, white has under 20, and then maybe 2 points on the left, 3 points. So the whole board, white has under 30 points, and you have 27 on the right. And in the bottom left, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 20, easily 20 plus. And you have center. If you take the corner in the upper left, you gain another like 5 to 10 ish. So if white has under 30 and you're at 35, 47, 50, 50 plus. So you'll be up probably in the 15-point range.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'll end the review. Thank you all